Welcome, travelers, to another episode of the Time Travel Trio podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Hyde.
And we're
The Time Travel Trio!
Yay!
Guys, we did it.
We did another episode, or we are doing. Matt,
All good.
what'd you pick?
Today we are doing a movie that no one's ever heard of. It's called Slipstream.
Woo!
It's from 2005, stars Sean Astin. And I'm pretty sure it was a direct-to-video release.
I hope so. It seems like that way.
Yeah, it does.
This was an unknown, and we kind of took a chance on it, and it is a bad movie.
It is genuinely a bad movie. Before we start, we mentioned it in the last episode, so we'll keep mentioning it, but if you write us a review on iTunes, we will make up a short time travel story about you. We haven't gotten any new ones yet, so please review us, and we will say something fun or maybe tragic about what might happen to you if you travel in time. So, Slipstream. This movie came out in 2005, and the synopsis is a scientist plots a bank robbery based around his newest invention, a time travel gadget that will send its user 10 minutes into the past. This was directed by David Van Essen? I don't know.
Everyone involved in this movie is pretty much an unnnown, except for the...
Well, Sean Astin is in it.
No, but the 3 stars. Everyone else involved with it, writing,
James.
directing, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's, this movie. Hyde, what did you think?
So I started watching this last night, and I fell asleep like 3 times watching this movie. So then I just gave up, went to bed, woke up this morning, and watched it finally. I had to I woke up and the movie was over, like the credits were rolling, and so I had to wake up this morning and go about to the halfway point of the film and watch from there, because that's like where last thing I remember having like cognizant memory of.
That's hilarious, because that's like such it's like an apt like comparison to this movie. It's just like, and I'm sure for you in your brain it's all jumbled,
right?
Because the editing was horrible. So I'm sure it was just like,
it was hard to watch.
This is the worst editing I've seen in probably any of the movies we've done.
Yeah.
To be honest, it is so poor and sloppy and just like trying to be cool maybe or something, but it just is horrible. I've never seen so many jump cuts in a movie before. Like,
pretty sure there's some line breaks, 180 line breaks too.
It's insane.
There's a sentence where he's explaining something to her, and it jumps between him in the car and walking to the bus, and it's like, why are you doing this? We know they're not time traveling. You're just
it's
cutting
weird.
up the dialogue.
They have the same conversation, and sometimes he's walking and telling her, and sometimes he's still sitting in the car
in the same sentence.
Yeah, and so it's really weird, because I was kind of like, oh, maybe they go back in time and do this over again, and that's why we're seeing it in 2 different places. But no, that's not what happens at all. It just is, like, dumb.
Yeah. If it was something like Edge of Tomorrow, where, like, we know he's doing this a bunch of times, and this is, like, illustrating that they had the same conversation across different things, maybe that'd be cool, you know? Like, have it be like, oh, this is an interesting way to show that time is passing in the same way over and over again. Yeah. But that wasn't what was happening.
Well, in the other movies, there's a movie called The Limey, which is directed by Steven Soderbergh, which has a very, very unique editing style, where conversations will be overlaid along people, like sometimes they'll be in a cafe, then they'll be back at their apartment, or they'll be driving. But you can tell they're having the same conversation. It's just showing everything they did that day, but the most important parts of their conversation. Even
something like Memento kind of does that too.
Memento does that too. It can be done effectively. We kind of took a stab at this in a feature film I directed, and our editor and I came with this idea where when a character was on drugs, you'd only get pieces of the conversation because they weren't really remembering and retaining everything. Mm-hmm. Kind of worked, kind of didn't. This movie just seems to do it because why not?
There's like no logic to it, is kind of what it seems like. It's someone is just directing this and doesn't really know how to direct at all, and just kind of throwing shit together. And like, same with the writing. I would say the writing is worse than the directing. No offense, but like, well, offense, because it is bad.
Yeah.
Just in general.
I got the feeling that they filmed a lot of stuff, or they didn't film enough stuff to have it be like worthwhile, so they had to use everything they had. So they had a scene where he explained it to her walking to the bus. They had a scene where they explained it to her in the car. Like, okay, well, let's use both. Because there's so many filler shots in this movie that were there just to waste time.
That's true. It does.
And it was only 80 whatever minutes with credits.
Yeah, it does feel like they had to stretch to fill an hour and a half, which, like, in that case, then, maybe you should, like, go back to the script and, like, actually put more in there. Wouldn't that be interesting?
So what did you guess?
I
mean, this
I
movie is
hated
terrible.
this movie. Matt and I had a conversation because as soon as we finished watching this, I said, this is the worst movie we've ever done on a podcast. And he said, no, Estarco is worse. And I disagreed, and we had kind of a debate about it. So I wanted to bring it up again because he loathes Estarco more than anything else I think we've ever watched, just in general. But my thing with Estarco is that it builds a world. Yes, it's a bad movie, but it builds a world. The acting is poor, but at least it, like, is comprehensible to a certain degree. The director doesn't comprehend what is supposed to be happening, but it is, like, things do actually happen, and there's plot points, and there's more structure. And so, like, that movie, while it's not good and should not be watched, is still a step up directing-wise and just in general from this movie, which could have been done by a 13-year-old pretending to film something on his video camera.
Yeah, I mean, the more I thought about it, like, this movie, quality-wise, is definitely worse than Estarco. Also because just due to the time it was made, like, I'm sure, like, just the way that films are made over the time span between this and Estarco has changed. But yeah, the reason why I hate Estarco so much is because of how just horribly they misunderstood the way time travel works in that world. Mm-hmm. And it just, like, whatever the plot was in that movie was just ruined by how horribly they misunderstood the time travel. Because, like, for Donnie Darko, we know the rules. The director literally put them on the screen saying, here's what should happen. And the writer and director just didn't understand it. So for me, it made the movie just, like, horrible. But yeah, this movie, quality-wise, editing, writing, directing, is just,
I mean,
like, probably, the worst that we've seen.
Yeah, like, at least Estarco tried to be more complex. Not that it succeeded, but it did try to be more complex. This movie was just, first of all, why in the world is it rated R? Just so that people can say the F word every 10 seconds? Because that's extremely obnoxious.
Yeah, the violence is, like, basic cable level violence.
This movie could easily have been PG-13. You don't need to have F words to make it...
No.
To do what? For what purpose? I don't understand. Unless Samuel L. Jackson is in this movie, like... Fuck off.
And gosh, if Samuel Jackson was in this movie, that would have made it so much more interesting, I'm sure. Even just little improv, just like little jokes. I mean, the biggest sin, I get what Matt is saying about Estarco, and I did think for a very long time, is this the worst movie we've seen? I don't know if I'm willing to say it's the worst movie we've seen, but I am willing to say it's the most boring movie we've watched. And this includes some pretty boring films that I've had to sit through, like Time at the Top. Because, like, Sound of Thunder is a bad movie. But it's a fun bad movie.
It's a fun bad movie.
Like, if I got drunk and watched that movie, I'd have a good time.
Yeah, I wouldn't, like, drag my feet having to watch Sound of Thunder again.
Yeah,
I would drag my feet having to watch Estarco again, because I've already seen it twice in my lifetime, and that's more than enough.
Yeah.
But something like, what was the other one I said? Oh, Time at the Top. Time at the Top, I kind of had an idea of what it would be going into it. I didn't expect high caliber movie. It's a TV movie, and it's made as a TV movie.
For
kids, I think it succeeds as a TV movie. It's a kids movie from a kids book that's about this girl who time travels through an elevator, and it's not super complex. Yes, I would say that movie is also boring.
Right.
But this movie, I think it's the most disappointing because, like, I love the idea of a time travel, like, heist movie. Yes. But this movie...
it was not.
...is the opposite of that, basically.
It's not even really a heist movie.
It's not a heist movie.
And characters make decisions that force, like, terrible things to happen that don't really need to happen, even after having the knowledge of who these people actually are. I know there's so much I want to break down in this. I will say, this movie is, you guys are talking about how this movie is 90 minutes.
It's less than 90.
Well, less than 90 minutes. A good 20 to 30 minutes of this movie feels like it's just slow motion shots. And weird editing. I want to talk, when we get deeper into this episode, I want to talk about gun physics. I want to
talk about that circle gunfight thing.
I got to talk about character choices, logic. There's just so much. Yeah. Also, where are they? What country, city are they in?
Okay, so this, it was, at the end of the credits, it said it's filmed entirely in South Africa. Okay, but it's supposed to take place in San Francisco, I'm pretty sure.
What?
Because the cop cars say SFO.
Wow.
And there's like a mention or something at some point of something about California. So I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be San Francisco.
And okay, wow, all right, that doesn't even make remote amount of sense since almost every character in the movie.
But it makes sense in the sense of like the dumb writers who wrote this movie would have it be in San Francisco because of the technology gadget.
Oh yeah,
right.
In that sense, they do
this
get it.
was probably written there like, oh, San Francisco, and then when the budget got put to what it was, they were like, it's gonna be South Africa. And instead of just deciding, okay, let's make it Johannesburg, they were like, nope. We're just gonna make it San Francisco still, or make it ambiguous.
It's some of the cars have the Slipstream on the wrong side of the car.
Yeah, some steering wheels are on the left and some were on the right.
There's even a joke about it. You guys, Vinnie Jones at one point early in the film says you guys are driving the wrong side of the road, like he's like making fun of Americans. But almost no one in this movie is American.
And like the bus driver's on the right side of the car.
Yeah, it's insane. Let's watch the trailer and then we'll get into all of this.
You ever wish that you could do the same thing over and over again? Like cashing your paycheck. Just keep cashing it repeatedly.
Everybody down! No!
What if you could go back in time?
Everybody down! No!
Explain to me what that thing does.
It's a temporal displacement device.
We can go back in time.
Just did?
What if you could fix everything that went wrong?
FBI, drop
Give me that! You get me and my men a chopper down here, and I won't kill these nice people on it.
You gotta get that device back.
What if you only made things worse?
They'll take us back.
It's impossible! There's a 10-minute time limit on it. Maximum. You can't go back more than 10 minutes.
Please, crashing!
The Lord of the Rings, Sean Astin. Paychecks, Ivana Milicevic. And Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Vinnie Jones. Slipstream.
What just happened?
Yes, Sean Astin, what did just happen?
First of all, oh, there's so many things. I almost want to rewatch that. One, I want to say I am wearing my Goonies t-shirt for this recording. Just putting that out there.
Yep.
And related to that, it took me a good, 20, 30 minutes before I wasn't like, why doesn't Sean Astin have a lisp? Because am not a big Lord of the Rings person. So, I know him from the Goonies, where he has a lisp, because he's Mikey, and it was weird, and I was, expecting to hear it, and it was really distracting for me. Anyway, that aside, crediting, what's her name? Ivana Milicevic as Paychecks? Okay, yes, she is in the movie Paycheck, which, by the way, we did do, but she's in one scene for, 2 minutes. She plays the fake Uma Thurman in that diner scene.
Right.
And is literally not in the movie ever again.
Wow.
That blows my mind. But
Hey, they gotta sell it somehow, you know.
yeah, no.
She was in another time travel movie.
She was in another time travel movie. So that is,
I mean,
I don't even know how to start on this.
let me say before we start ripping into this movie, I actually really like Sean Astin. I like him as an actor. He's done some really good performances. Vinnie Jones is great. And it's Ivana, she's done some decent stuff. She's done some good work.
She's been in a lot of things.
Yeah, she's a very, talented actress. These people are a lot better than this movie is. That being said, we are about to roast them. So,
yeah,
yes.
literally all of them for different reasons.
No one is safe.
No one is safe. Watching that trailer made me think Vinnie Jones should have been the only British person in the movie. His henchmen should have been all American accents.
Yes.
And I don't understand why it wasn't that way. This is very British.
Couldn't afford American. They were probably all South African actors.
Yeah, probably.
They probably were dirt cheap because usually if you shoot in a different country, they give you tax incentives for hiring local talent and crew.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just the opening monologue was 5 minutes, and it was so boring.
It was way too long. way too long.
There are 4 dimensions. Time and space. That's 2.
It felt like an hour. It felt like an hour just hearing him before the main titles came up. Which, and by the way, I have to mention this. This is like really petty, but like it distracted me and I hated it. When the credits rolled out, like executive producer or Joe Smith, whatever, they like roll out backwards.
Yes.
Like a reverse scroll. Mm. I hated it. It looked so horrible. Like, just the name rolled out backwards, and then the title, like, faded on. And so it was, like, weird two different effects that someone just made in iMovie, because I'm pretty sure that's where they edited this movie. That, like, I'm sorry, but, like, that was so distracting, and I hated that so much, and I wish I could just put your fucking name on the thing. It doesn't have to be a super fancy thing.
Why do we have title cards when there's a 5-minute monologue where he's talking? Like, all the credits should have played over his monologue.
Yeah, it was weird.
Like, the monologue ends, it fades to black, goes to, like, this weird, like, pulsing, like, blue light, like, was supposed to be the Slipstream logo.
Yeah, which the Slipstream logo, by the way, looks like the screensaver on the Windows.
Yeah, it does.
That, like, you know, the colorful
traces
one.
Itself,
that's,
yeah.
like, yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
I think at one point he mentioned, like, have you heard of the World Wide Web? And he said, like, we're like flies stuck in the web, or I don't know, some dumb, like, web joke.
Yeah, in 2005. Have you heard of the World Wide Web? Yes, I have Neopets. I've heard of it.
I love Neopets.
I will say, this is like one of the first movies that I've seen that acknowledges looking out into space is like a time travel thing, because you see the past.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I don't, you know, I was like, all right, that's interesting, but like that's just someone looking up stuff online and being like, oh, that's like the past.
Yeah. These 2 FBI agents are literally the worst tales I've ever seen in a movie.
They're right behind them.
They are horrible.
Like,
horrible.
That scene where they're at the stoplight is like the dumbest like writing thing you could do. Like, I know, put all the characters at one stoplight and then have them yell at each other. It's like, they don't know they're going to be involved in the future.
Yeah, that was so dumb. And they're, like, so loud and blatantly obvious that they're, like, watching him at the bank.
Right.
And, like, they're just,
they're, like, dressed in, like, they look like FBI. They look like the FBI for the FBI. Like, they look like internal affairs. And they are, like, it's like, yo, she needs to be wearing, like, a Metallica t-shirt and, like, like, with a fox hawk. And he needs to be wearing, like,
a fox hawk?
A faux hawk. I said fox hawk. I did. Sorry, faux hawk.
Is it the first time
you
said it out loud?
Fox hawk?
No, I said it out loud. I say it all the time. For some reason, I think because I was like spelling it out, and I was like, fox. What? No.
No.
I have a bad tendency to do that, actually.
No, it's funny. It's funny because, like, I knew exactly what you meant. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess that is how it's written.
Anyway, sorry, continue.
Faux hawk.
That was funny.
She needs to have a faux hawk, and he needs to be wearing, like, an Ohio State or San Francisco State University sweatshirt. Like, it's just so dumb.
He's the least FBI person. Like, she at least is, like, somewhat interested in like what they're actually doing. He just gives a shit about like their relationship or whatever. He doesn't care 2 shits about this guy. I mean,
to be fair, Sean Astin does not look like a threat, and he's like, yo, like, we're in a good relationship. I hit that last night. What's going on? Yeah. And he's like, yo, this dude in the glasses on the scooter, he's not going to lose. We're not going to lose him. In fact, we got stopped at a stoplight, let him keep going, and we still got to the same thing. Like,
yeah, it's like they knew where he was going, too, by the way. Like, that's how that worked.
For him, this is Tuesday. Tuesday after amazing sex. And he's just like, you know what? It's like, and can you blame him? According to her later in the movie, that she only gets paid $46K a year.
Yeah.
And works 70 hours a week.
What?
Because she's a woman, that's
What is that an hour?
Like 20-something? I don't know.
No, not even. For 70 hours a week?
Oh, 70 hours a week.
She's making like $12 an hour.
She's making like 10 an hour, yeah.
Well, if she's salaried, then
Yeah, true.
The hours don't really matter, but...
That's true.
But dang, girl, get a pay raise. Like, I hope you have good dental. Like, geez.
I mean, in 2005, I suppose there still was, like, a large pay gap between men and women, so maybe the guy is bankrolling and she's just living with him.
I think someone just... I don't think someone even looked up. San Francisco, making $46K in San Francisco, you don't have a house. You don't even have an apartment.
Like, McDonald's workers make more than that a year.
That's why she's having sex with that dude. She doesn't love him. She needs a place to stay.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, man.
Their combined incomes will finally give them enough to have a one-bedroom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Oh, wow, this movie. Yeah, so I had to mention about them being the worst FBI agents I've ever seen. They're following him presumably because of this device that he stole from the lab that he works at? Is that the
Yeah.
They're
reason?
suspicious of it, like that he might use it for some sort of like heist, like he's going to use it to like make a lot of money.
But they don't know what it is because all
They
they
don't know
know
what
is the
it
name
is.
Slipstream
And they
because
don't even
everything
know
else is
what's-
redacted.
Yeah, they don't even know what Slipstream means.
So then who tipped off the FBI?
Right, that's my question. Why are they following him in the first place?
Because the company, they're also after him because at the end of the movie, they kidnap him and then he goes back in time again and is like, nope, got away. So
Right.
if the company's after him, then why is the FBI after him?
So it's not like the company would call the FBI, especially because of what the device does.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, he's very casual for someone who could literally be picked up at any moment by the company.
He's so blasé about it.
Right.
It's weird.
He's like...
He just cares about being a creepo to that woman at the
that
bank.
poor banker.
God.
Oh my God.
if that's your first scene of this character with another person, I immediately hate him.
Yeah,
Like-
and they describe him, before we see him, they describe him as, intelligent, but,
Socially inept.
snarky or something like that, or he's a rebel. They don't use the word rebel, but something like that.
He's socially inept or whatever.
No, but not socially inept. They say he's really smart, but he has an attitude, or something like that.
Yeah.
They describe him that way.
Well, at
And that's
first...
not at all what he's like. He's just a fucking creep.
Well, at first, when he is being very creepy and rude to the teller, I thought he was purposely trying to see. He was just basically going for a nuclear option of let me just say everything that I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
and see, get her angry and then reverse it and then go the opposite way. Which would have been an interesting character choice if she had done that and then he goes back and he's more charming and he's more normal.
But he was still creepy.
But he was still
He's
creepy,
still-
just not
Yeah.
as forceful.
Has clearly never talked to a human woman before.
And even if he was, obviously he knew he was going to go back in time, even that, still, the fact that he wants to do that means he's creepy.
Right.
He's someone
He's still creepy.
He's someone who invents, the movie Her? He, invents that because he cannot get a woman, and so that's the best option he can do, is to build an AI woman to, be his girlfriend.
Yes, but at least in Her, Joaquin Phoenix still has to be a gentleman to get Scarlett Johansson to talk to him.
Yeah.
This dude, doesn't... Literally, even at the end of the movie... By the way, if you haven't seen this movie, we are spoiling everything.
Don't see this
movie. But you don't need to see this movie, because we're going to spoil everything, so you don't have to see this movie.
Yeah, we took that bullet for you.
At the end of the movie,
Literally.
he goes back to her, literally says nothing out of the ordinary of a casual conversation, and then is somehow able to woo this bank teller, who is a physics major, it turns out.
Well, that's why, because he talked about his real life, and I like physics. She's like, oh, I see. I like physics.
We have something in common. And
Let's get coffee. Here's my handle.
Here's my aim. Rip aim.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Stewbomb.com
Stewbomb.
was his, something like that. It was his stupid screen
It's
name.
it's like a bad SNL sketch. Who would ever give out their... No one does that.
No.
Unless they're in middle school. And then that's when they're typing, oh, that was my friend.
It's not like he doesn't have a phone number.
Right.
I don't understand. Instant message me. Here's my handle.
At least
Oh my
give her
God.
your email.
Yeah.
Jeez. Oh, but also what I couldn't help thinking, even though, no, because that poor woman has suffered enough at the hands of his character,
Mm-hmm.
I thought, she's a physics major. Wouldn't it have been a lot more interesting of a movie if he and her were on the run from the FBI and
Yeah.
the criminals, and she's a physics major so she can, keep up?
Yeah.
Still the straight man, because she has to have stuff explained to her, because she is a bank teller.
Yeah.
But enough that she's like, oh, I get it. Blah,
Yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
And maybe she could help him figure out when they're on the airplane or whatever to figure out how to go farther back in time.
Yes.
Yeah.
This movie gets a lot of points for being one of the few films in the early 2000s that just says, you know what we need? A firewire cable.
Yeah. She's like, Firewire.
Firewire. Oh
That's
my
a plot
God.
point. That is a plot point.
That's a plot point at the climax of the movie.
Right, that's the equivalent of, someone today said, give me the USB 3 drive, the USB 3.0. Don't use 2.0, use 3.0. It's faster, as, in the climax of the film.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, at this point, I guess we should just get more into how it's happening.
Yes.
So
Sure.
we have a clip of Sean Astin's character explaining it to the FBI lady after they've both time traveled.
So it's a device. It looks kind of like a see-through clear cell phone.
Yeah, it's like an iPod.
It's like a handheld thing.
Can you explain to me what that thing does?
It's a little hard to explain, actually.
Try me.
It's a temporal displacement device, a translocation unit. Okay, in layman's terms, it's a time machine, but just a prototype.
You're talking to me right now about going back in time?
Yeah, backwards, forwards, theoretically, if you had enough funding, which we don't, but that's another story.
We can go back in time.
We just did. Twice. What do you think that was?
Okay. Yeah, he has no idea as an actor what he's talking about, and you can tell. He's just saying words and putting weird, like, spaces in between them, so it's, like, not logical with what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, there is more explanation that they kind of hear, but whatever. We'll talk about other things.
Because who cares? This movie is
yeah.
horrible.
And you can't go more, the rules are, you can't go more than 10 minutes back in the past. At least that's what they think, until they plug it into a high-powered laptop.
The reason why they can go more is because they're up in the air and there's more cell towers, but they're in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So it's like,
They're over mountains.
Yeah.
Like, that's like the opposite of where you get cell service.
Yeah, exactly.
Power.
And it's all, and also like the logic of like he explains how they found out the window. It's like they like or how it affects you. They test it on animals. He's like, oh yeah, I shaved a rat and then I sent it back and it had its hair back. Like how the way this device works, if you send a rat back in time by only the rat knowing it, then you as the tester like seeing it from outside, you wouldn't know anything because like okay, let's say
Maybe he touched it with the rat.
Well, no, but he said before we use it on humans, we used animals.
Oh.
So, like, how would you know? Okay, you have a rat, right? It's sitting there, you shave it, you send it back in time to before you shave it. So, before you started the experiment, how would you know it even happened?
Well, how does the device... It doesn't work on its own. Someone has to actually, like, push these buttons.
Yeah, I mean, I guess...
function.
Yeah, but they can, like, only have the rat touch it. So that way, he, like, you know... Only he gets sent back in time. I don't know. The whole logic of this device is dumb.
The Palm Pilot, the PDA,
yeah,
as some people call it.
Yeah, it's essentially like the idea that whatever you have on your person, whatever clothes you're wearing, that kind of thing, will go back with you, whatever you're touching.
Yeah, and even if you're shot, as long as the bullet goes through you, which it happens every time, it's fine, you'll heal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those are the rules. And you can touch other people, you can grab them as long as you're touching it. So it's like a, you know, like how does the device, like how does it end? Like how come it doesn't take the whole bus? How come it doesn't take the whole world? You know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, there's no one really thought too much about it.
It's just movie logic.
Yeah, for sure.
Which could work. Movie logic can work in really entertaining films. Mm-hmm. But this is not one of those.
No, it's not. This movie's just boring. I hate this movie. It felt a little bit Prince of Persia-ish sometimes to me, at least at first, of kind of the idea of, like, pushing a thing and holding it, and then you go back and you have the memories and whatever. And
yeah, and the window's longer, and at the end they reset time. So, yeah it is very similar to that.
Very similar structure.
I know we alluded to this, but the gun action is very dumb. It's the worst gun action I've ever seen in my entire life.
So, in the... Oh, God, there's so many gunfights in this movie for literally no reason.
Right.
Like, I don't even understand. But that aside, there's a gunfight in the bank, one of the times that they're robbing the bank, and there's just this one point where the two FBI agents and Vinnie Jones and his crew, they're all shooting at each other.
And the security guard of the bank.
Oh, and the security guard of the bank of, like, who is he? When did he ever come in here? But no, he's in this scene. So there's this scene that, like, I actually am surprised that it's not, like, just well known for how horrible it is, because it's maybe one of the worst things I've ever seen in a movie. Like genuinely not being, like, exaggerating. It's pretty horrific. It's these probably, like, 8 or so people are shooting at each other, but the director decides to shoot it as if he's, like, standing in the center of a circle and is, like, going around, and they're shooting at the camera in a circle.
In the middle of the room.
So, like, as if they're all standing in a circle and shooting at each other, and the director's just, like, doing a loop and like filming them shooting each other. Yeah,
they're spinning, this camera's spinning. There's a lot of spinning in this movie. Like, even when they're in the bathroom talking to each other, the girl and Vinnie Jones, they're spinning in the bathroom. Like, for no reason. They're just spinning in the little bus bathroom.
It's so weird.
Yeah. So... It's really obnoxious. It's distracting. It looks horrible. It doesn't make any sense. And no one's getting shot.
No one's getting shot.
No one gets shot at all.
Except for Sean Astin.
Yeah.
He gets shot twice, actually.
Yeah.
But he's, like, never the one with the gun. It's insane. Like, how, you know, a lot of times in movies, like, yes, there's a lot of gunfights and there's a lot of bullets that fly and, like, the main characters don't get shot. And, like, there's other movies that we'll do later, like, we're gonna do an episode on Tomb Raider, and that's something that I want to bring up there, too, because that's kind of the case in that movie as well. But in this movie, it's kind of astonishing how no one is ever really injured, except for, like, only at key moments in the plot, like Vinnie Jones's girlfriend is shot eventually.
Right,
and, like,
and then her
and the
FBI,
FBI
partner gets shot with a shotgun. When actually the criminals are the furthest away they've been from him the whole time.
Yeah.
He actually gets shot
He's,
square
like,
on.
just standing, like, no protection, nothing, and just, like, there's, like, 6 of them in a van shooting at him, and he's just, like, trying to shoot a van. And it's like, dude, they're in a van already. You're not going to stop them with your one gun and no protection. Like,
None.
at that point, just let them go. Or, like, chase them in your car or something. Like, I don't understand.
Like, there is
He's a
literally...
dumb FBI guy.
They're shooting shotguns, which spread, and
Mhm.
somehow no one's getting hit. Like,
I know.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
It's illogical, and this is also something I have to talk about with the character decisions of this film,
Mhm.
because there's some things that happen that don't make sense, particularly in a film where people can go back and make different choices.
Mhm.
It's very clear from the beginning that Vinnie Jones and his team don't want to actually hurt anyone. They just want the money.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
They don't want to hurt anyone. They don't want any real violence.
Mhm.
Like, they just want to get the money and get out. Their
Yeah.
whole plan is built around not hurting people.
Yeah, they say that up front, like, we don't want to hurt anyone, but we will if we have to, but it's obvious that, like, they're not going to shoot anyone unless it's, like, an extreme circumstance, is the impression that I got at first.
Right. And so, for no reason at all, the situation gets escalated into violence. Then, even after, I mean, literally the FBI agent is holding a gun, pointing at one of his men, and Vinnie Jones' first thing is, don't shoot. Okay, let's figure this out. Vinnie Jones, the criminal, is de-escalating the violent situation. Which, once that happens, you have to, like, figure out there are innocent civilians here and a lot of guns.
Mhm.
We do not need the crime. No competent law enforcement agent or anyone of that nature is going to escalate a situation with hostages.
Except for these guys.
Then, later in the bus, totally getting rid of all of that logic, they start shooting out the windows while they have hostages, which is the worst thing you could do. Because one, that gives people incentive to shoot you. Two, it gives you no cover, and
Yeah,
people can see
they're
inside
going
the
to kill
shop.
all of those hostages.
And put a bomb on the bus driver?
Right.
Well, I thought that Vinnie Jones put the bomb on the bus driver.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
The criminals did, yeah.
Yeah, but, like, the FBI agents were the ones who were shooting the bus.
Right.
Well, no, the criminals started shooting out the windows first.
Yeah, but then the FBI agents were shooting the bus,
Right, yeah,
which is what I'm saying, that, like, they're going to kill all of these
Yeah.
hostages
Like,
when they're supposed to be protecting them.
It doesn't make any sense. There's so many situations in here where just the writers and directors don't understand how guns work,
No.
how hostage or bank robbery
They
situations
just are
work.
like, no, we just needed, like, an action fight scene, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Also, like, they hijack a bus and then literally don't drive the bus?
Yeah,
The bus just sits there. They hijack a
They're
bus.
not blocked in.
No, the bus literally just sits there stopped on the freeway the entire time so the FBI agents can get to them.
And
Like,
they demand a helicopter, which is the
Right.
worst getaway, because you can trace a helicopter. You know where it's going to go. You can have people be there when it lands. Like, it's not that hard to follow a helicopter.
there's no logic. I don't understand.
And plus, they can fly a helicopter? The criminals, that's their plan?
Like,
I don't know.
it just seemed like the criminals didn't think past actually getting inside the bank to get the money. It felt like they just kind of went as they went, and there was no plan. And so, what really was insane to me, after all of this, after everything, we're like, oh, we have to talk about the fact that, like, multiple people sneak onto a, like, public airplane
Right.
flight.
Post
with-
9/11.
With guns, only 4 years after 9/11, with guns, like, Vinnie Jones doesn't have ID that he's an FBI agent or anything like that. Like, how did he, okay, he got through the airport with a gun, and then...
Well, I think they were in the lobby waiting for pilots to come through. They knock out the pilots,
Yeah.
and then he threw his gun away. So they went through, like, everything as pilots, you know? So maybe they have, like, oh, you're a pilot, go on through. But yeah,
Okay, but the
Yeah.
FBI woman, like,
had her gun.
had her gun, and, like, that's unless she's an air marshal, which the air marshal had a gun, but, like, even if you're an FBI agent, it's not like a free pass to bring a gun onto an airplane.
Yeah.
No.
Like, there's millions of FBI agents. Like, no, that's not rational at all. So
You certainly can't have it on your persons.
no, and so even on the airplane, Vinnie Jones, like, somehow there's a window is shut out, and so then the airplane's gonna crash, and he's like threatening all these people, and he's like all about violence. The rest of the movie, he's all about violence. He doesn't care about helping people or like not hurting them.
Right.
And so it doesn't make any sense. And he couldn't give less of a shit if the airplane's gonna crash and kill all of these people.
Right.
Was what
Which
I thought.
includes himself.
Which includes himself. And then at the end of the movie, when they go back to the beginning, and he remembers, because he touched the thing as well, he remembers, he decides, instead of robbing the bank, he's like, you know what, we're just gonna scratch this job and, walk away
And
from
his
it.
crew is like, all right.
And his crew's like, okay, cool, you know best, way to go, you're so smart. Was literally like what they said to him, and they leave. And it's just like, what? What?
Yeah.
The bad guy has more of a story arc than the main character in the movie, who's just a fucking creep who
Right.
tried to steal money from the bank.
Right.
That was what he brought that thing for. He tried to steal money to get more money from his paycheck. That was the whole thing.
What's interesting is that...
He's robbing the bank too.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, once he's done with his little time loop, the bank would still have lost $2,000, because the way that this dumb time travel logic works is if you're holding the money, you revert time, somehow the money that was in your hand is back in the cash register. Right. So the bank isn't actually losing the money. He's just gaining more of it. But it's like duplication that's like...
Right.
Like, I hold it and go back in time and it's there again. But it's in my hand also.
It's still cheating.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I mean, he did this all for $2,000. He basically did this all for, like... he basically did this all for, like, a payday advance.
Right. And it was like... And those bills have the same serial number. So, like, you have, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 of the same actual, like...
Counterfeit,
technically. Yeah, counterfeit.
It's just a very high-tech printing copy machine.
Yeah. Like, oh, God.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. Vinnie Jones, like I said, because Vinnie Jones his character has gotten so violent at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes back... I totally get why he would not want to go through that. I was like, whoa, that got really out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
But the FBI agent, in her mind, this dude is like a psychopath. So, like, why would she be like, oh, he's driving away to rob another bank another day. Hey, let me go make out with my boyfriend.
Because he's alive again. Yeah. There's no one, like, actually makes a professionally smart decision. They make selfish personal decisions throughout the movie. Speaking
of selfish and personal and professional decisions... after, like, at some point in the movie, the FBI agent gets fired because she was dating her boyfriend.
Yeah, her boss, whatever, the old white man cliche FBI boss is, like, fires her, presumably because she was dating her coworker, and that was frowned upon. First, there's so many questions I have with that. One, how did he know that they were dating? And even if it was obvious, like, fine. Second, why is that, like, a reason to completely fire someone with, like, no, like, questions or nothing? It's just like, you're not... He's dead already at this point.
He's dead.
So what the hell is the point of firing her? It's not like she's gonna date him anymore.
Right, and then she's like, we'll turn your gun in your badge tomorrow, which seems to imply that he, like, wants her to finish the job.
Yeah, it was... And also, at the end of the movie, when they, like, go back in time and it's fine, and they're together again, she'll still be fired. Because, like...
Well, not necessarily.
Well,
maybe
then,
it was
how else would he have known that they were together if he already knew before the events of the movie?
Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe someone said something because of how she acted over his dead body or something.
I mean,
Who
I saw
knows?
the scene how she acted over his dead body. She seemed to be like... It was more like partner died than, like, love of my life
Put her jacket over his face and then run away.
Yeah.
It's like... I don't know. Also, I mean... I would quit her job. It seems very stressful for, like, the little
70
amount of pay.
hours a week and $46,000 a year.
Like, girl, you could do so much better anywhere. Literally anywhere.
Be a security guard and you could do better.
The dude at the bank is making more money than you and not having the stressful job. Like, his
Yep.
job ends at 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He was ready to die for the bank.
Mm-hmm.
He was in that circular, which...
Why was he in there?
When I saw that, I literally laughed because it was like a new character.
Just in that one scene, and we literally never saw him again.
Yeah.
It was like a satire, like a spoof, like an action film. Like
Right,
it felt like something out of
was
like a
an SNL
scary
sketch,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
scary movie.
Like
kind of thing.
all of a sudden, like just a random new character is inserted during like a scene. Like what is happening? I was like, who is this dude?
We need to find that clip and we'll post it online because it's incredible. And that's like, and when you see it, you'll be surprised. Like, wait, how is this not a thing in pop culture? Just like how horrible this is.
Oh my god.
I don't know, but it's horrible.
And
So-
there's so much slow mo in this movie too.
It really is. They're stretching to fill a certain time quota for this movie, and it's
Slow-mo with dramatic choir music too.
Yeah.
Like the plane crash that went on forever, and then they
Oh,
reversed
the plane crash.
the reverse time. And at first, it's like, oh god, please tell me they're not going to go through the entire movie. But no, they go through the entire
do.
movie in reverse. Like we didn't need that. And it's like
We just had to sit through it. We don't need to sit through it again.
like this whole slow pace. Like we want you to see everything. We want you to remember the movie. Why do you want me to remember this movie?
Yeah.
Like the plane crash. Sorry, I know you mentioned it briefly, but
I have to talk about the plane crash.
The-
You're not allowed to talk about the plane crash. What I'm going to say about the plane crash?
I don't want to say it.
No, the explosion of the plane crash is the least logical thing because it runs into a mountain, and instead of like when it explodes, the whole thing explodes. Just the tip
Yeah.
starts to explode.
The start of the tip
as it
explodes.
hits the mountain, and it like kind
Yeah,
of crumbles together like an accordion.
Yeah.
But like the explosion is only like at the front when it hits the mountain.
Right. It has to slowly build towards them.
Yeah.
Well, like,
It never
yeah,
does.
like the engines have to explode because that's where like the explosive thing is. The tip has nothing explosive in it. Like it's where the pilots are. It's where the controls are. You know.
It doesn't matter. Something
Well,
metal hit a
also
mountain.
remember their van that overturned that then explodes like a few minutes
Yeah.
later after
Oh,
they
yeah.
after they leisurely stroll away from it.
I know.
They pick up their duffel bags, check everything. Like, you guys okay? Like I honestly thought like nothing was gonna happen. Then it explodes
Yeah.
for no reason.
Yeah. I want to talk about Hot Tub Time Machine because in that movie they also go back to, you know, there's a time jump in that movie too where like the characters remember, but like there's a gap of, I don't know, where am I going with this? Of like, you know what we were talking about with John Cusack and when he's like, wait, he had this whole life and
Yeah,
didn't
the-
recall it at all.
But that was to the past, back to the present.
Yeah, but like this is, I guess, the present back to the past.
Well, yeah.
Right. Essentially.
Yeah, but there's no life being erased. You know.
Yeah.
If they went to the past and then back to the present and they like their consciousness erased
Would
some life, then
But would it make sense for them to actually remember everything that happened because it doesn't actually happen? It's like
Yeah,
a
but-
timeline that never occurred.
right, yeah, it's a timeline that never actually happened. But the whole like, if you touch the device, then your like brain goes back in time, so you remember those events still. You know, so like that's obviously like the distinction of like
everyone else it just resets. So like,
right.
does the world turn backwards? Essentially,
I mean,
that
yeah,
kind of thing?
it's the same kind of like deal with like how like physically how does it make sense? You know,
Mhm.
like how like is your if you're rewinding the whole universe, then that's really unrealistic. If you're setting your brain back in time, I don't know. But then like how are you holding stuff? So it is almost like you're safe and the whole universe is rewound around you.
Yeah. So when they go back to the past and they're in the pilots' uniforms, do those pilots who were wearing those uniforms not have clothes on anymore?
No,
or do they
I-
have their clothes on? Or like, how does that work?
It's the same deal as holding the money, and then the money is then back in the cash register because
Mm.
it like creates a duplication effect.
I don't like that it brings physical things with you.
Yeah,
I think it
hate
would have been just fine if it was just your memories in your brain go back and everything else stays the same. Your clothes, whatever, like physical goes, like physical fine. Physical can go back to what you were before. But like, I don't like that some stuff, like clothes, stays with you. It's weird.
Well, why wouldn't she also when the FBI agent goes back in time and he goes back in time, why wouldn't they have bloodstains on their clothes? By that logic, they would
Yeah.
have bloodstains on their clothes.
Yep.
Mhm.
Like, and then, I mean, that would have been at least interesting. You go all the way with it if you're going to do that. Like,
Yeah.
you'd be like, are you bleeding? no, it's just my... Because this is how people wrote the script. No, it's just my administrating.
Yeah.
Because literally, no one in this movie understands how people flirt, apparently.
Oh, no,
like,
this is all 3 different women wrote this. Or two men wrote
I was
this.
about to be shocked if you said 3
Sorry.
women. I was like, what woman
I was
would
going to say
ever...
not women.
Vinnie Jones, the way he charms that flight attendant is like, what? And also the way...
Ew, it was creepy.
Super
and weird.
creepy. Like, she's turned on by this? Like, dang. Like...
She just wants them so desperately, like, she doesn't give a shit.
I'm like, dang, she's not like an ugly woman. She could get some. Like, why is she, like, so thirsty?
I want to talk about the diversity in this movie, because there isn't any. But
Hey, there's that one black robber.
there's one black henchman in the entire movie. He barely has any lines except for when they go into the bank and he's like, I don't know, he says something
Get
like,
down or something.
"Get down, or I'll shoot you," or something like that.
Right.
Something dumb. But at least the woman does survive the movie instead of like her dying and the partner goes on. I'm glad that at least she was the one. So like there is some scenes where like she is stronger. So like I will give props to that, because she, while everything about this movie was poorly written, she at least like did survive, and she like
has some agency to her.
Yeah, she does.
Until she decided to kiss Sean Astin for no reason.
And then we gotta talk about that, because why on earth did she do that? There wasn't any romantic tension. There was nothing.
Was that to motivate him?
But like, there are
whatever.
other ways to motivate someone, and that was just so.
Well, they're about to die.
He's okay,
There's
but
no
like,
other greater motivation.
I don't think it was necessary. He's like a man-child who has no experience with women.
Yeah.
So like in that sense, okay, I get it. But also like, they all still have that memory, and then she just goes back with her boyfriend. So like, she gets another guy. Like,
I think she did it to like motivate him, because apparently about to crash into a mountain was not enough motivation for him to.
Then she should have kissed his cheek. She shouldn't have kissed him on the face.
Like,
on the
good
mouth.
luck. This is why they should have brought the bank teller with them, because then you could have done that whole storyline.
She should have just been like, you can do this. Kiss him on the cheek. He's a child, so that would have been the same type of motivation for him. Honestly, that would have been much more logical.
And then firewire cable.
Yeah, she's never seen a firewire cable in her life.
It's just, so she gets so excited about it too. Like, I remembered that word. I remember that piece of technology.
So multiple times in this movie, Vinnie Jones takes the Slipstream device, and everyone gives it to him so easily without a fight.
Yeah.
Sean Astin,
he's like, give it to me.
Give
Here
that
you
to me.
go.
That looks expensive. And he's like, okay, here you go. And just literally doesn't say anything, doesn't fight back. Like, at that point, if the bad guy's trying to steal your time travel device, either, like, use it or, like, throw it away or something like that. Like, don't let him have it.
Right.
Not that he ever uses it, which doesn't make sense, but okay.
It's true. I thought at one point when she, like, was telling him stuff about it, that he was going to get it and, like, start using it to, like, ooh, I can, like, rob banks with this now.
Right. That would have been so much more interesting. But instead, I mean, like, he, I guess, goes with them to use it and tries to get Sean Astin to make it useful again, but...
The first time he picks it up,
mm-hmm.
and he takes it from him, I thought it was already going. So I thought what was going to happen was he was going to be making away. Honestly, my brain was trying to go ahead of this plot, and I thought what was going to happen was Vinnie Jones was going to pick up the phone, someone was going to get killed, turns out it was going to be the male agent, he was going to be horrified that someone died, and then it reverses time, and then he goes back in time, and then he's like, oh my gosh. I honestly thought the main villains of this movie were going to be the company he worked for. Or like some bigger entity. Not the criminal. Because all of them are built up as likable characters.
Yeah.
Or, in this movie's universe, likable, quote-unquote, characters in the first bit. The FBI agents are in love, and they're not really like gun-ho people. Mm-hmm. Sean Astin is creepy, but he's not hurting anyone. And then the bank robbers literally don't want to hurt anyone as they just take this money. I mean, yeah, it's still breaking the law, but as far as bank robbers go, they're pretty benign. Yeah. Like, it's like, as they say, like, we're not taking your money, it's all insured, we just want it, no one needs to get hurt, we're done here. Yeah. It would have been a much more interesting story if there was a much bigger evil force.
Like, why is this company developing this tech, and what are they trying to use it for? Something evil. That would have been a much more interesting story.
Yeah, IMDb describes this as a bank heist movie. So I thought, oh, they're gonna have to work together as a team because these guys know how to rob banks. Sean Astin knows how it works, and then the FBI agents are like kind of the law people who would be like kind of the constant conflict between the groups.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, I honestly thought that's what they were going for, and then the movie just takes this horribly boring turn.
Yeah, it's just Vinnie Jones trying to escape, and then the FBI woman and Sean Astin basically following him around because now he has the device, and they're trying to get it back, I guess, she wants to save the FBI guy, but then the window closes, and then they just run around, basically, until the end of the movie when their plane is, almost crash, and then goes back to the beginning of the movie, and they decide not to rob the bank.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's the movie. That's what happens in this movie. Are there consequences to using this device?
Whatever. I mean, like they make them consequences, but I don't know.
Yeah, physically, just from using it itself, there isn't really. I mean, we kind of talked about how whatever you touch kind of goes back with you, your memories and your clothes and whatever.
Yeah.
Scientific accuracy to any of the...
There's they mentioned string theory. They mentioned these dumb parallel confluences word that they throw around. It's just someone who did a light Google search on scientific terms and was
literally so many of the movies we do, that's the case. They just Google sciencey time travel words and then just throw them in because they think most people won't understand. Well, I'm here to tell you, movie script writers, Matthew Robinson, and tell you that we do look into this stuff, and we understand that you are just talking jargon nonsense to try and make your characters sound smart. Do a little bit of research. It's not that hard, and it will make it more logical, and maybe we'll give your movie a better score. Anyway, I said my piece.
Yeah, the PDA, I guess, has enough power to throw you back in time, which doesn't make any sense. And he uses cell towers, which I believe is microwaves, and there's not much energy in microwaves, so it's really nothing. It's just dumb.
Mm-hmm. Relevance to the story, I guess we have to give it that. It is somewhat relevant to the story, and they do use it more than once, but it all reverts back at the beginning to the start, and so... It
definitely tries to use time travel more than Prince of Persia, the last film we did.
That's true.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true. It is about the device for the most part.
Yeah, and at least this one, it regenerates, it needs to load up, it needs to get to 100% before I can use it. At least, there's no, finite cleavage sand.
Cleavage sand.
Oh, cleavage sand. Yeah, but there is, cleavage comments of when... one of the lines that Sean Astin uses to the bank teller is when he says, you just wear these really low-cut shirts all the time.
Which
it makes
she doesn't.
Hard for me to...
And she's not wearing
focus.
those. And
she's not, I know, because after he said that, I was looking and I'm like, you have to put her then in a low-cut shirt. You can't have him say that. She's wearing, a really high V-neck. And,
yeah, you don't see any cleavage.
You don't see any cleavage.
Very professional.
Yeah. It's not, she's not someone who's, I think it would have been, yes, it would have been more demeaning to women, but, have her be, a more slutty, promiscuous, dressing-looking person with, a lot of makeup and, poofy hair, whatever, and, slutty clothes. At least then, it would kind of follow more in suit with Sean Astin because he probably has taste like a 13-year-old boy.
Right.
And so that's the kind of girls that he would try and hit on, and they would, actually throw things in his face.
Right.
That would have been more loved. Anyway. Clothes and sets, other than the lack of cleavage.
Don't even put cleavage in when it's supposed to be. So many movies where cleavage is there when it's not supposed to be. And in the one movie where it's
in the script.
At least, follow with what your character's saying.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, it's set in South Africa. It looks like South Africa.
It does not look like San Francisco, ultimately, of what it's supposed to be. It's just nothing but white people and British people running around with guns.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Would you want to experience this time travel?
No, because it's so dumb.
It's so dumb. It's what's the point? I don't want to go back 10 minutes because I was just there 10 minutes ago. And if I wanted to do something, then just do it. What? Yeah. I don't understand.
And to get money that way is so tedious and not worth it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get if it's a situation of someone dies and then you go back 10 minutes and stop them from dying, something like Edge of Tomorrow, then I could see a use for it. But for me personally, would I want to experience this? No, it's
Yeah.
just annoying.
I don't want to be anywhere near anything to do with this movie.
Yeah, not worth it. What about
You know, I mean, it would be cool to have that device, but anything that it's also there are way cooler devices that we've talked about in films that I would much rather use.
Mm-hmm.
This one definitely doesn't have any consequences. I say like a predestination where like you literally start losing your sanity by using it.
Yeah.
Though who knows? Maybe Sean Astin was a normal guy until he started using this Slipstream.
Wouldn't it have been fun if, like, the beginning of the movie opened, instead of his boring narration for 300 years, if it was him, like, walking around, like, saying, like, outrageously rude things to people as he, like, passed them on the street, like, you're a jackass, because it's rated R, so, like, why don't you use that language?
Yeah.
And then he, like, goes back in time 10 minutes and just, like, walks past the person again. Like, that would have been a cool way to introduce this Slipstream device.
Ugh.
That would have been much more fun. Like, make it a fun movie.
There's nothing fun about this movie, which is the biggest sin of all. Like, it's not fun.
It could have just been fun. Like, understand what your movie is, and just don't take it so seriously, and just have fun with it, and make it humorous, bad. Like, make the whole thing like that stupid circle gunfight.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, it's like everything that. Like, you know, if
outrageous.
Everything was outrageous, I actually might have, like, come away, like, kind of like a Sound of Thunder, where it's like, okay, it's stupid, but it's all stupid.
Even the gunfight in the garage with the smoke and whatever, and that's how they try and escape from the FBI. It's just weird, like, how they all, like, run around chasing each other, and then they all, like, stop and have a gunfight somewhere, and then, like, the bad guys escape, and, like, some of them die. But then they keep going, and then the FBI keeps chasing them. It just is so weird.
Yeah, the FBI was like, all right, well, that's it for this round. We'll get him next time.
Yeah, there's no, like, car chase scene that seemed like it kind of lent itself to something like that. I don't know.
They blew all of their car chase money on the totally unnecessary flip of that van.
Yeah.
And explosion.
Yeah. Good driving, they said, after that happened. Any other notes that we didn't talk about?
No,
I had a lot of notes, but
yeah.
I think we kind of talked about them.
I went through all of my notes, so...
Yeah. I do want to say, like, it did feel a little bit sexist that, like, there's only literally 2 women in this movie, and they both are, like, talking about relationships, pretty much. Like, it feels like the FBI woman, she has to have, I mean, like, I get that, okay, maybe she loves the FBI guy, but it did feel like she has to have a guy to be happy.
Right.
And, like, that was, you know, it wasn't like, I'm gonna, you know, kill them for revenge on his behalf and, like, move forward and, like, do a good job. It's like, I have to have him back because I'm nothing without him.
Yeah, definitely women written by men.
That's, for sure.
For sure.
I think we talked about pretty much everything else.
Yeah, that's pretty much all the stuff I found ridiculous.
So, you're still firmly in S. Darko's the worst.
I mean, yeah, we can get to the rating if you want.
Okay, yeah.
You still think S. Dark was worse than this movie?
Well, like, to get totally specific or technical, I probably will give them the same ratings.
But you hated S. Darko more.
I hated it more because it was so obvious what the rules are of that world, and the writer just didn't care to even understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It was so, like, at least this time travel was someone just made it up, and sure, it's lazy and dumb, and it's, like, fake science words, but at least he, like, made it up. You know, like, S. Darko, it was from something that already had rules established, and you just didn't even understand it. Didn't even care to understand it.
Yeah, but, like, the rules in this were barely even rules. It was like...
I mean, yeah, it's still bad, so I'll give it a bad rating. But what makes me hate S. Darko more is that the rules were already there.
There's nothing fun. It wasn't this movie, to me, just wasn't a movie. Movies are supposed to be fun, enjoyable, entertaining, whatever, like... or, like, a heavy drama, and, like, make you think. It wasn't any of that. It was just boring and lame and stupid and was a waste of time in all forms. The acting was lazy. It was stupid. Like, people just don't give a shit.
So, movie ratings.
So, my movie rating, I mean, I have to give it a 1 out of 10. And only because... No, it's only because there was one thing I mentioned that I had to give them props for. I don't even remember what it was, but it was, no, I guess I can't give anything a 0, but whatever. I hate this movie.
Well, I mean, I think S. Darko was 0.5s for both the movie and time travel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, S. Darko didn't even get a full point.
Yeah. I mean, at least Vinnie Jones was in it. So, fine, I guess 0.5 since you guys are pressuring me to make it a
No,
0.5.
no, no. I'm not.
No,
No. We're just saying like if S Darko was a 0.5, but like you can still think it's a worse film even if you're giving it a 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's fine.
Yeah.
There are movies that we've given like very low ratings that are like technically well made. Prince of Persia is a very well made film in terms of like cinematography, fight scenes, but it doesn't mean it's a good movie.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going 0.5 because it was shitty and, you know, it was on par with S. Darko pretty much in terms of experience. It was also a waste of time. It was also horribly acted and poorly written, so 0.5 for me.
I'll give it a 1, just because I wasn't as infuriated as I was with S. Darko. It's not fun. Actually, between the two, I would probably watch S. Darko before I watch this again. Just because S. Darko, at least I can like laugh at how bad it is sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And at least S. Darko. Here's the thing about Slipstream: who is it for?
Yeah.
Who is S? Like what is Slipstream for? Like it's an R-rated film, but there's no extreme violence, just some F words thrown about, which is probably just been them letting Vinnie Jones like improv a little bit.
And a few squibs.
A few squibs, yeah.
Otherwise, there's no blood.
But nothing that I haven't seen on like Burn Notice on USA.
Yeah.
You know, like it's nothing like super
It wasn't
violent.
graphic or anything, no.
Right. And like this is I'm not saying this because I wanted to see this in the film. I'm just saying there's no TNA in this film. Like he's talking about this girl like wearing low cut tops, but she's in a completely like respectable, like conservative sweater.
Because like we've never seen her in anything else, so
Right.
him saying that like makes him seem really odd and like off putting.
Right. So it's like, you know, usually in a movie this bad, there are some boobies at some point. And, like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
like, and I'm not like there's just nothing. Like, I mean, this movie like needed a sex scene between the two FBI agents. Like, they needed something. Like, why am I watching this?
Yeah.
Like, the time travel isn't interesting. The special effects aren't interesting. The fight scenes aren't good. There's nothing deep or philosophical being brought up. So
No.
it just exists to exist.
Yeah, what is the purpose of this movie?
At least S. Darko had like a purpose. It had like a thought process to it. At least there are like attractive people getting killed by cars and meteors.
Yeah.
There's just nothing in this film.
Yeah.
So, but I'm gonna give it a 1 just because it's not patently offensive. It's just bad.
Yeah, I remember what my point was for. It was for the fact that the woman actually like lives through the movie. But, you know, I have to take half of that away because she is like more focused on getting her boyfriend back than she is about actually like helping the world.
Yeah, for sure.
But time travel rating, you know, it's kind of a bummer because there could have been some really fun things that we kind of mentioned that they could have done with this whole go back in time 10 minutes and redo it ordeal. Like what I said before of him, like, walking down the street being an asshole to people and then, like, getting it out of his system and, like, whatever. And, like, maybe he's, like, secretly an asshole to his coworkers, but then he uses the device and goes back in time and everyone loves him. And, you know, or something like that. Or he, like, even a sequence of him, like, trying to hit on the girl and, like, says he has, like, his foot in his mouth and, like, says something dumb, and so he tries to, like, do it again, but, you know, that kind of thing, and, like, make it a fun movie and understand what it should be and not try and make it more than what it can be. But, you know, so it's disappointing because I like the idea of a handheld device and that, like, just a short amount of time to go back in time. It's kind of refreshing because a lot of things are, like, very extreme, like, we go back as much time as we need or whenever year we want to or whatever. So it's nice to, you know, see something more condensed, but they didn't really do anything with it, and the movie itself restarted at the beginning. So I'm gonna have to give the time travel a 1 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll go with 0.5 as well, again, for the time travel rating, because, you know, we're always comparing it to S. Darko, obviously, and I think the movie itself is worse than S. Darko, as Hyde was saying. I agree with you, how, like, there is some merit to actually visually watching S. Darko, but the time travel for this movie is just, it's just lazy, it's just boring, they don't do anything with it, and, you know, at the end they reset time, and that's, I'm on a kick of being against that, you know, Prince of Persia, and, I don't know, I think some other movie we did, so, yeah, so 0.5, so 0.5 is all around for me.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to give a 0.5 to the time travel because the time travel is completely wasted. They don't do anything interesting with the time travel, and they break their most simplest of rules.
Yeah,
They
that's true.
decide to break. Like, the reason it works is because they're using it from a computer, and because they have in the air, they have more cell phone tower, which is the exact opposite of how cell phone towers work. And they're also over mountains, like deserted mountains. It would make sense if he went on top. Now, if there was a final fight on top of a cell phone tower, and then like he got struck by lightning and it caused a supercharge that sent him back.
Yeah, I'll do a Back to the Future reference or something.
Right. Then I could give it a 1. Maybe even a 1.5. But because the movie makes no sense, its time travel makes no sense at all, I have to... And everyone reacts to time travel in the most blasé fashion.
Yeah.
Like, literally, he gets shot, comes back to life, she says, "You were shot." And he's like, "Stop shooting me." In another movie, that would have been a really funny line. In this movie, it's
like
just
in Edge
stupid.
of Tomorrow, that's funny.
Yeah, it's very funny in Edge of Tomorrow. And it's like, in here, it's so stupid. Sean Astin is a pretty good actor who's been in some stellar, like, memorable films. And he and everyone else, down to the bank teller, deserve to be in a better film. Mm-hmm. So 0.5.
Yeah.
Time travel.
Okay, cool. So our next episode, there isn't really a Rotten Tomatoes rating because this was a straight-to-DVD movie and no one ever saw it because it was horrible. But there's one review that someone says, baffling, irritating, and even a little infuriating. And that's pretty much this movie in a nutshell. So
Wait, I like Scott Weinberg's review. Omnipresent camera spinning can't deliver enough slickness to hide Slipstream's half-baked concept and frequently horrific dialogue. Omnipresent camera spinning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. This movie is horrible. Do not see it. But for the next episode, we kind of mentioned this in our Prince of Persia, but I had a light bulb moment, and we are going to be doing Lara Croft Tomb Raider, the Angelina Jolie 2001 version, which is actually a movie I really enjoy a lot. I've seen it a number of times and can't wait to talk about it, because yes, it is actually time travel related. Fun fact. So the synopsis, if you don't know or don't remember, it's been a while because this movie came out 16 years ago. Video game adventurer Lara Croft comes to life in a movie where she races against time and villains to recover powerful ancient artifacts. It's a fun movie, action-packed, but it's not too much. And it's actually like a decent story to follow. So yeah, this will be fun. Yeah.
Yes.
You guys still awake over there?
We're sorry, I was thinking about Slipstream and I almost dozed off.
Yeah. Okay, so social media, we're at Time Travel Trio on Twitter and on Instagram. And we are the Time Travel Trio podcast on Facebook. We're also on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. So please subscribe and rate to us on there. As we mentioned at the top of the show, if you rate us on iTunes and write a review, we will make up a short time travel story about you, and we'll talk about it on the show. So please do that. Personal, I am at Jen Marlis on Twitter and on Instagram if you'd like to follow me.
I'm at Foreman in Space.
I'm at Robinson is Hyde.
And
with that,
we are out of
Time.